Can you talk about the psychological impact
Yeah,
on the children as a result of what
yeah,
they saw in
yeah.
Syria?
As I said, I mean, I would say each and every child who moved or who was in Syria now is being affected in a way or another. Some of them directly by being even sometimes hit themselves and injured, and that by itself. And we have many children who were themselves injured in the camps. Some of them lost or uh, experienced a direct experience during this time, and some of them, of course, through their neighbors or their families. So in a way, each and every child, I would say, is affected in this way. The impact on that is, of course, as we know from psychology and psychiatry, it differs from one child to the other. We know that there are a lot of, for example, of children who have sleeping problems, children who have problems in connecting with others, those who don't want to leave their parents, those who don't want to go to schools, those who have some panic kind of attacks that comes to them every now and then, those who are having other physiological problems with them. And it also differs for ages and the impact itself on between also boys and girls. I mean, all type of traumatic impacts of traumatic things are happening in those. What we try to do as UNICEF and others in this situation is first to identify the situation. I mean, to know who are those children, especially those most vulnerable children, children who lost somebody, those who lost their parents or who are living with different families. Know where they are, these children, know what, and work with the families on how, where to go, and sometimes to follow the programs that the specialists are providing to these families and make sure that they are following those programs. And of course, providing also the environment where those children can get together, because nothing is better than having children together to share their own experiences and to share their own feelings with their peers and maybe with adults who are closer to their age and get with that. So this is around what we are doing. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, there were children who were themselves affected by that war, and of course that brings a different dimension of documenting this and reporting it properly, because at some point there should be some kind of system where justice has to come to those who have been affected.
You know, when you're talking to the children at these various camps, what do they tell you? What are they most what are they most interested in improving for their life, or I mean, do they just want to go home? What's it like for
The
them?
most I am always impressed with the resilience of those children. I mean, they still laugh, they still play, they still do this. I mean, children are. This is what is nice about childhood. I say this now, and I become a bit emotional about this. I think all of them, they want to go back home, and all of them, they have now very strong feelings about this war. Um, I would say, unfortunately, not for the specific child that I'm talking about, but about the situation. Some of those children, they say that I want to go and become a soldier and I want to go and fight. So for me, I don't like to hear this, because children should not think about fighting. But I can understand why they are saying this and where they are coming from. Um, what impresses us, what amazes us, in fact, and makes us so enthusiastic and so hopeful, is that all the children and all their families, first response to them, we want to continue education. We still want to go to school. The demand on school and the education and the quality of education is so big and so strong. So they talk about education, they talk about, and I think our role internationally, everybody who really wants, is to keep this hope going on, and not by words but by action, action that can be done through the UN and the other systems to stop this war and really get people back, but also between that time and now, really to give those children real hope by good education and by proper dignified kind of services that we can give them. I think it's very important.
And let's talk more about the role of the international community. There's a $1.5 billion funding gap between what's needed by the UN agencies to support the people affected by the crisis in Syria,
Yeah.
and the gap between what's needed and what's being provided. So, tell me, how does that gap impact the children of Syria?
It has been already now stated that this is one of the largest ever kind of crisis that is happening in Syria. And of course, the nature of this crisis is also different. These are not people who took refuge because of hunger or of drought, with all respect to those type of emergencies. But many of those people, they came from middle income, people who had their own lifestyle, their own work, their own jobs. So when they are refugees also, we need to think about this. And it's not only to provide the basic services, and this is what people expect. They, of course, expect more. But so far, as you already mentioned, what has been provided is much, much less than what is needed. And the World Food Program, for example, which is doing an excellent job in doing this, they are living on month by month almost basis, trying to attract donors and others to work. UNICEF is also, we are completely dependent on the generosity of our donors to give us what we can support. In Turkey, the government has done, as I said, a tremendous job. They are very commendable job in providing those services, but this does not really. It's not enough to thank Turkey by saying thank you, you did a great job. This is not enough. In fact, I feel embarrassed to say this now, because I think with those words of thanks, it should be a very strong solidarity show by the international to reward Turkey for what it has done by stepping in and really helping. And if this does not happen here in Turkey, maybe at some point of time, we will start facing issues and problems in Turkey where, the capacity of the country might not be not only enough, but also there is pressure from the people of Turkey saying that, where is the international community? Why are we doing this alone? Why is it that we don't have? Of course, I'm not saying that there are no support. There is a support, and we thank all the governments. Tomorrow we have an event that has been supported by Kuwait funds, by the US. We have a program running with the EU. I'm not suggesting that the international community is not helping, but I'm saying that they are not helping enough for sure. And a refugee in Jordan, and a refugee from my point of view, and many of us, a refugee in Jordan or a refugee in Turkey or a refugee they have to be seen as a unit by themselves, regardless where they are. So they need to be, and this is not the responsibility only for the country that is hosting them, but for the whole international community.
If there's an American or a French gentleman or woman, a British guy watching this at home, why should they care? Why should they? And what can they do?
Okay, I think as human beings, I think we should always care when we know, as I mentioned, that 50% of those affected, we are talking about around now, we're approaching 5 million children who are affected in this. 5 million futures, 5 million lives, 5 million hopes. And I don't want to take it, everybody knows the impact of this crisis on the whole region and globally. Extremism, violence, all of this can happen. So if we want to live in a peaceful world, we need to help. And if we want to please our conscience again, if we go and we see our children and we see our parents and we see ourselves living and I think we have a duty towards our brothers and sisters in humanity. But I will also tell them, that they have in each of those countries that you mentioned and other countries. For example, as UNICEF, we have our national committees who are working there, and they will be they are already collecting donations and providing us and others with this type of money. So I would encourage them to really consider donating not only to UNICEF, but to anybody whom they trust that they can really send this type of donation. And I think this this would be appreciated, and I think this is a duty now as a humanitarian thing. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add?
I just want to add one thing is if anybody would go to any of those camps and see those refugees, he or she will see beautiful children who have hopes, very smart, very very loving to their country, very loving to peace, very loving to live and have life. And it's a shame that if the world cannot get together and stop this war and bring those children back to their homes, and in between not really to provide them with what they deserve as a support. And we need always to remember that Syria is one of the oldest civilization on earth, and this civilization is in the Syrian people. They are so civilized people, they are so nice and good people, and they deserve to be like this. Thank you.